All right, let's talk about something that affects a ton of people: rural internet. Specifically, we're going to dive into the huge wave of federal money that's out there to get high speed internet to every corner of America. So, if you live in a place where broadband feels more like a myth than a reality, this one's for you. We're going to break down how your community can finally get connected. So let's just start with the question that I'm sure is on everyone's mind. Probably a question you've screamed at your screen while watching that little buffering wheel spin. Why, with all this amazing technology out there, is the internet in so many rural places still just awful? Well, the answer has a name. It's called the digital divide. And really, it all boils down to simple economics. In places with low population density, like a lot of rural upstate New York, it's just not profitable for private internet companies to spend millions building out expensive fiber networks. It's a classic market failure, and it creates this huge gap that leaves millions of people behind. But, and this is a big but, here is the good news. To fix this exact problem, the federal government has stepped in with an absolutely historic investment. We are talking about over $65 billion from the Infrastructure Investment and Jobs Act. All of it is aimed at closing that digital divide for good. This is a complete game changer. Okay, but having the money is really just the first step, right? You gotta know what to do with it. I want you to think about it like you're building a house. Imagine someone just handed you a massive budget. Fantastic. But that pile of cash is pretty useless if you don't have a solid blueprint and the right set of tools. And that's exactly what we're going to break down: the tools and the plan your community needs to build its connected future. So let's pop open that toolkit. We're going to look at 6 key federal programs, but really think of them as 5 distinct paths or tools that a community can use. Each one is designed for a very specific part of the job. And here's a quick look at the variety we're dealing with. Just notice how they all tackle different pieces of the puzzle. You've got 2 from the USDA, one for the actual physical wires, and another for the equipment that uses those wires. Then you've got this other one from the EDA, the Economic Development Administration, and it's laser focused on infrastructure that's gonna create jobs. First up, we've got the USDA Community Connect Grant. This is the heavy machinery. This is your bulldozer and your concrete mixer. Its one and only job is to fund the actual construction of networks in the most remote, unserved places, exactly where private companies refuse to go. For communities starting from scratch, this is how you pour the foundation. Okay, so once that foundation is laid and the house is built, you need to furnish it. And that's where the USDA's other big program comes in: Distance Learning and Telemedicine, or DLT. Now, this program doesn't pay for the network itself. It pays for all the critical tech that uses the network. We're talking about things like advanced video conferencing for schools or high-tech diagnostic tools for rural hospitals. And to see just how big of a deal this is, you just have to look at Western New York. A hospital there used a DLT grant to bring in specialty medical care to over 4,000 patients who wouldn't have had access otherwise. A nearby school district built brand new distance learning rooms, serving over 7,000 students with cool new courses, including Native American languages. This is how connectivity actually changes lives. All right, our next tool comes from the Institute of Museum and Library Services, the IMLS. So sticking with our house analogy, this grant builds the community rooms. See, it recognizes that having a network is kind of useless if people can't afford to get on it, or if they don't have the skills to use it. So these grants empower local libraries to become these amazing digital hubs with free Wi-Fi and training for absolutely everyone. Now, tool number 4 is a little different. This one's from the National Science Foundation, the NSF. And it's basically the R&D lab for a whole project. It funds these cool research partnerships between universities and communities to test out future-proof ideas. A perfect example is Iowa's Connected Farm Testbed. They're developing new wireless tech specifically for precision agriculture. I mean, that's a project that could be a huge deal for rural economies everywhere. Okay, our 5th tool is the FCC's High Cost Program. And you really got to pay attention here because it works in a completely different way. The most important thing to know is that this money doesn't go to your town or your county. It goes directly to the telecom carriers, the builders, to basically bribe them into building networks in those expensive rural areas. This completely changes your community's role from being the applicant to being the overseer. And that job of being an overseer is so critical. I mean, look at this slide. It shows 2 totally different paths. On one side, you have this cautionary tale from the RDOF auction, where carriers just defaulted on $3.3 billion in awards, leaving almost 2 million homes and businesses completely stranded. But then on the other side, you've got Orleans County, New York. They took matters into their own hands. They used a grant to build their own publicly owned wireless network. They got local control and a guaranteed service for over 11,000 locations. What a powerful contrast. So, we've seen the tools in the toolkit, we know what's in the box. Now for the most important part. How do you actually use them? Let's pull out the blueprint, a 3-phase roadmap that any community can follow to get this done. The roadmap itself is pretty clear and logical. Phase 1 is all about planning. You get a committee together, you do a really detailed needs assessment so you know exactly what your community requires. Phase 2 is all about prep work. You find partners, you get all your documents ready to go before a grant is even announced. And then Phase 3, which is crucial, is active oversight after you win the money, making sure the project actually delivers on what it promised. You know, this quote right here, it just gets to the absolute heart of it. Success isn't about scrambling when a funding announcement drops. The communities that consistently win these grants are the ones who have already done the hard work. They've got the data, they've got the plan, and they've got the partnerships all lined up, just waiting for the green light. Preparation is truly everything. So what does all this add up to? What's the final goal here? Well, it's not just about building a network. The real vision is to build a resilient, complete digital ecosystem for your entire community. And the smartest way to actually achieve that vision is by not relying on just a single tool from the toolkit. No, the most successful strategies involve what's called braiding, multiple funding streams together. You use different grants for different complementary jobs to create a solution that's truly comprehensive. You can think of it like a recipe. A community might take a USDA grant for the basic infrastructure. Then they add a DLT grant for new telemedicine tech at the local clinic. And then they mix in an IMLS grant for digital skills classes at the library. You put all those ingredients together, and the result isn't just wires in the ground, it's a truly connected, thriving community. So if you walk away with just one thing from all of this, let it be this. The billions of dollars in federal money are the resource. It's an incredible opportunity. But it is the local planning, the proactive action, and the constant oversight from people on the ground that actually turns that money from a simple construction project into a real, lasting community asset. Which really just leaves us with one final question to think about. Now that the tools and the blueprint are out there and they're clear, is your community building its digital future? Thanks for joining us.